a demon that kills its victims while they are trapped between sleep and reality. The film opens with a note revealing a shocking fact that more than 40% of people around the world are trapped in a mysterious condition known as sleep paralysis. And even more disturbingly, 2/3 of them have become victims of attacks by an evil demon that enters their dream world, turning their sleep into unavoidable nightmares. The scene then shifts to a young girl named Sophie sleeping peacefully in her bedroom until she suddenly wakes up after hearing strange noises coming from her parents' room. Slowly, Sophie walks toward the room and is horrified to discover that her father, Matthew, has mysteriously died.
Mommy?
Her mother, Helena, immediately screams hysterically upon seeing Matthew's sudden death and desperately tells Sophie not to look at her father, trying to shield her from the horrifying sight. A detective named Mike McCarthy is assigned to investigate Matthew's death. Mike attempts to interrogate Helena to determine the cause of Matthew's death, but Helena remains completely silent and refuses to say a single word. Not only Helena, but Sophie also refuses to speak, appearing to still be in deep shock over her father's death. The absence of CCTV footage in the house, the lack of solid evidence, and no signs of forced entry make Mike increasingly suspicious of Helena, who's the most likely cause of Matthew's death, especially since she was the only person near him at the time. Eventually, Mike makes a bold decision by naming Helena as the prime suspect, suspecting that she deliberately killed Matthew due to a severe psychological disorder. Mike then seeks help from a psychologist named Dr. Kate Fuller to evaluate Helena's mental condition. If Helena is proven to be insane, the best option would be to place her in a mental hospital, but if she is still mentally sound, Mike plans to proceed with legal action and send her to prison according to the law. Kate is instantly shocked when she sees Matthew's corpse, which appears extremely disturbing with a broken neck and blood-red eyes. Without hesitation, Kate begins photographing evidence with her camera, including unclear scribbles found around the crime scene. Her attention is drawn to a strange word, takahas, written on a torn piece of paper, whose meaning Kate does not understand. She then goes to the living room to ask Helena several questions, but Helena still refuses to speak. After that, Kate goes upstairs to try talking to Sophie, hoping she might open up to her. Sophie is with her grandfather Tom, who gives Kate an important clue about a man named Dougie Tarrenton, explaining that he once saw Helena and Matthew meet Dougie shortly before the incident. Despite this crucial information suggesting Dougie's possible involvement, Kate asks Tom to step outside because she wants to speak with Sophie alone.
Mr. Fluffy.
Grandpa's right to be worried.
With great gentleness, Kate approaches Sophie and tries to understand the trauma she is experiencing after Matthew's death, carefully encouraging her to share what truly happened that night. However, Sophie's grandfather, Tom, in his attempt to protect his granddaughter, forbids Sophie from speaking to Kate because he fears that Kate might take Helena away, which would mean Sophie would never see her mother again. Afraid of losing her mother, Sophie chooses to remain silent. Kate then reassures Sophie by promising that she will not separate her from Helena, and hearing this, Sophie finally gives in and begins to tell Kate what she knows. On the night of the incident, Sophie was sleeping soundly when she woke up after hearing screams coming from her parents' bedroom. When she went to check, she was horrified to find her father dead, killed by an evil demon named Mara.
Did your mommy have to go away? Promise you won't take mommy away?
What did you see?
After hearing Sophie's story, Kate immediately asks Helena who Mara is. But instead of explaining, Helena bursts into hysterical screams, leaving Kate even more confused. Helena is then taken to the police station for further interrogation, where Kate is assigned to evaluate her and determine whether she should be committed to a mental hospital or sent to prison. When Kate asks what really happened to Matthew, Helena finally speaks and reveals that Matthew had been having an affair with one of his students, as he was a teacher. After confessing his infidelity, Matthew became increasingly stressed and suffered from severe sleep problems, slowly losing his sanity and experiencing mental deterioration. Helena, devastated by the discovery, is deeply crushed as their 10-year marriage collapses because of Matthew's betrayal. She intends to divorce him, but Matthew begs for forgiveness and promises never to repeat his mistake. Unable to forgive him, Helena is haunted by guilt every time she looks at Sophie, and now that Matthew is dead, she realizes she can never turn back time. On the night of Matthew's death, Helena experiences sleep paralysis and is unable to move as the demon Mara approaches Matthew, climbs onto his body, and strangles him to death, while Helena can only watch helplessly. Helena swears that she did not kill her husband and that it was Mara who murdered him. But Detective Mike and the officers observing the interrogation conclude that Helena is suffering from severe mental illness caused by Matthew's actions, and Mike believes Helena is the murderer. Wanting to close the case quickly, Mike pressures Kate to sign documents declaring Helena mentally unstable. Kate initially refuses, believing she must uncover the truth behind Matthew's death, but she is ultimately forced to choose between labeling Helena insane or believing her story about a demon. And as a rational doctor with no evidence supporting Mara's existence, Kate struggles to accept the supernatural explanation. That night, Kate is overwhelmed with stress, knowing that signing the documents will separate Sophie from her mother, a decision that deeply pains her, especially since she promised Sophie they would not be separated. Torn between compassion and her duty to uphold the truth, Kate eventually signs the papers, resulting in Sophie being separated from Helena and placed under Tom's care, while Kate can only apologize and feel immense guilt for breaking her promise to Sophie.
That is naughty.
Mrs. Winsfield, I'm sorry, but time is up.
That night, while Kate is asleep, she suddenly wakes up and realizes she is experiencing sleep paralysis for the first time in her life. She briefly sees a woman standing in the distance, and only after the figure disappears does Kate regain full control of her body and wake up normally. The next morning, Kate looks lost in thought, overwhelmed by guilt toward Sophie, knowing that because of her decision, Sophie has been separated from her mother. While sitting in silence, Kate notices a piece of paper lying on the table, something she had taken from Sophie's house earlier with a torn corner at the top. She instinctively picks it up and carefully compares the torn edge with the photos she had taken at Sophie's house, realizing that the piece perfectly matches one of the torn papers from the crime scene. When she puts the pieces together, Kate discovers a clue revealing that a man named Takahashi knew more about Mara, along with Takahashi's home address written on the paper. Kate immediately goes to the address, only to find the house in complete disarray, abandoned and eerily silent. As she searches the house hoping to find Takahashi, Kate is horrified to discover his decomposing corpse. She quickly calls Detective Mike so an investigation can be launched into Takahashi's death. From the investigation, it is revealed that Takahashi was not an American citizen but a Japanese national, and Mike estimates that he died about a week earlier. Upon closer inspection, Kate notices similarities between Takahashi's injuries and Matthew's, though Mike remains convinced that Helena is responsible for both deaths. Kate, however, refuses to accept this conclusion and continues searching for the truth, prompting her to visit the mental hospital to ask Helena directly whether she knew Takahashi, as well as asking about Dougie, the man previously mentioned by Tom. At first, Helena remains silent and unwilling to talk, but the atmosphere changes when Kate opens up about her own traumatic past, revealing that her mother suffered from schizophrenia when Kate was the same age as Sophie and was hospitalized in a mental institution, only to be found dead by hanging in a room after 3 weeks of treatment. That tragedy motivated Kate to become a psychologist, hoping to help others struggling with mental illness like her mother did. Gradually, Helena begins to open up after hearing Kate's story and finally agrees to speak. Helena explains that she initially felt pity for Matthew as he continued to suffer from severe sleep disorders and frequent sleep paralysis, and unable to bear his suffering, she searched online forums and discussion groups for people experiencing similar problems. Eventually, she found a group led by a doctor named Dr. Ellis, consisting of people dealing with sleep paralysis, where she met Takahashi and Dougie, who would later play important roles in her life. With Helena's support, Matthew felt relieved to have a place where he could share his experiences and seek solutions with others facing the same condition. However, before Matthew's death, Helena noticed a mysterious red mark appearing in his eyes, and from that moment on, his condition rapidly worsened. Deeply worried by the drastic decline in her husband's mental and physical health, Helena became increasingly fearful when she realized that the red mark was connected to the presence of the sleep demon known as Mara. Helena then begs Kate to help her get out of the mental hospital so she can see Sophie again, but Kate refuses, fearing the consequences of allowing Helena to be free. Suddenly, Helena shows Kate the red mark that has appeared in her eyes, a sign that Mara has marked her as the next target. Realizing that her life may not last much longer, Helena desperately pleads with Kate to release her so she can meet Sophie one last time. Confused and disturbed by Helena's revelation, Kate decides to search for answers by visiting Dr. Ellis, believing he may have a deeper understanding of what Helena is experiencing.
Meeting other sufferers really helped Matthew.
My husband was killed by a sleep demon. He's betrayed you.
There are 3.
Kate attends a therapy session led by Dr. Ellis, joined by several people who suffer from sleep paralysis, including Dougie. Dr. Ellis calmly explains the process of sleep paralysis and how it affects the mind and body, describing it as a terrifying condition in which a person wakes up but is temporarily unable to move or speak, trapped in a half-awake state between sleep and consciousness. Although many people associate sleep paralysis with mystical experiences, Dr. Ellis insists it can be explained medically as hallucinations caused by stress or anxiety, and both he and Kate, as doctors grounded in science, remain skeptical of supernatural explanations. Dr. Ellis then invites the participants to share their experiences, and many describe horrifying moments of feeling watched by something evil during their paralysis. The atmosphere grows tense when a man named Saul seriously claims that the evil demon they are discussing truly exists among them.
At my home, she was a demon. Sent to claim it was the devil incarnate. So
Dougie interrupts Saul, warning that if Saul has seen Mara in the real world, it means he has reached the final stage of his life, and sternly tells him not to fall asleep that night or he will become Mara's next victim. Panic erupts when Dougie suddenly removes Saul's glasses, revealing Saul's glowing red eyes as proof that his life is in grave danger, insisting that the only way for Saul to survive is to stay awake. Despite Dr. Ellis and Kate refusing to believe in Mara, Dougie swears that Saul will die if he sleeps.
you are in grave danger.
Enough, Dougie.
Out of deep sleep into sleep paralysis.
Bullshit!
Dougie.
He's cursed. You will die tonight.
Let's all just calm down. There are no such thing as
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Mara is real. Soul dies.
Terrified and unable to endure the constant fear, Saul leaves and makes a desperate decision to burn himself alive.
Purify me. Purify me, you servant.
Later, while Kate is asleep, she dreams of Saul committing suicide by setting himself on fire, and upon waking, she experiences sleep paralysis for the second time, briefly seeing a woman beneath her table. After regaining control of her body, Kate receives a phone call from Detective Mike, confirming the tragic news of Saul's death, leaving Kate shaken as she realizes that her nightmare has come true. Kate then asks Mike to arrest a man named Dougie because he had accurately predicted Saul's death, making him the most likely suspect behind a series of murders involving Saul, Takahashi, and Matthew, even though they still lack solid evidence. During the interrogation, however, Dougie remains completely silent and refuses to give any information, leaving Detective Mike increasingly frustrated by the dead end.
Suspect is Dougie Trent. Dougie, did you kill these people?
I didn't kill him.
You know Mr. Takahashi?
Dougie.
No comment.
Out of curiosity, Kate asks Dougie what he knows about the demon Mara, and this finally prompts him to speak. Dougie reveals that the first person to ever see Mara was Takahashi, whom he met through an online discussion group. And at first, Dougie believed Takahashi was mentally ill, but Takahashi's tragic death proved that he was truly being haunted by Mara. Before Takahashi died, the two of them desperately searched for ways to escape the demon's terror, but all efforts failed because Mara has existed on Earth since 400 BC and has caused countless deaths. Dougie also explains that Matthew was another victim of Mara, and despite Dougie warning him not to sleep, Matthew ignored the advice and was killed. Dougie then shows the red marks in his own eyes, confirming that he too has been marked and is now one of Mara's targets. Despite this detailed explanation, Detective Mike dismisses everything as nonsense and remains convinced that Dougie is responsible for the murders, even without sufficient proof.
On him living in a dilapidated shack.
Later, Mike brings what he believes is good news to Kate, informing her that Helena will be released that day and reunited with Sophie, which makes Kate feel relieved because of her guilt over separating them.
Well, thanks partly to you. We have a
Kill those people. What if that demon was him?
However, when Kate goes to tell Helena the news, she is horrified to find Helena dead in her room, her eyes glowing red just like Matthew's and Saul's. Helena's tragic death haunts Kate deeply, filling her with overwhelming guilt because Helena had begged her for freedom so she could see Sophie one last time, only to be ignored. As Kate sinks into regret, she suddenly experiences another episode of sleep paralysis and sees a woman slowly approaching her. But she manages to wake herself in time, only to notice something strange about her eyes. When she checks the mirror, she finds the same red marks seen in Dougie's eyes, realizing in terror that she has been marked by Mara. Panicked and desperate, Kate knows the only thing she can do is find Dougie to learn more about the demon, so she sneaks into Mike's office to search for Dougie's address and discovers files revealing that Dougie lives alone in an old shack. While there, Kate also finds CCTV footage from the mental hospital showing the final moments of Helena's death. And in the recording, she clearly sees a dark shadow standing directly above Helena's body. After that, Kate rushes to Dougie's place, and upon arriving, she sees that his house relies entirely on a generator as its main source of electricity. Kate comes there to ask how Dougie has managed to survive Mara's terror, considering that Takahashi, Matthew, and Helena have all fallen victim, raising a major question about how Dougie has remained alive while Helena, who saw Mara more recently, died before him. Dougie explains that he survives by sleeping only 20 minutes a day, deliberately setting extremely loud alarms to wake himself up after short periods of rest as a way to avoid Mara, since those who fall into deep sleep become vulnerable to the demon's attacks, which is why Dougie is constantly sleep-deprived and on edge. Kate then shows the red mark in her eyes, proving that she too has been marked by Mara, and Dougie invites her inside, where she sees countless papers covering the walls, all documenting his investigation into the demon. Dougie explains that millions of people have seen Mara over the centuries, as the demon has existed since 400 BC. Yet for reasons still unknown, Mara only targets certain individuals, and Dougie believes there is a specific pattern determining who becomes a victim. From his research, he concludes that Mara appears in the human world after a major tragedy, though he still does not know what tragedy has occurred recently. Takahashi was the first to be targeted, and somehow the terror spread to people close to him, such as Dougie and Matthew, followed by Helena and Saul, prompting Dougie to investigate why only this small group was chosen. Dougie then explains that Kate is currently in the second stage of Mara's process, stating that before killing someone, Mara puts the victim through 4 stages, beginning with sleep paralysis and seeing Mara, followed by the red mark appearing in the eyes, then physical contact when Mara places a hand on the victim's neck, and finally the 4th stage, where the victim can see Mara even while fully awake, and if they fall asleep at this stage, Mara will kill them. Despite Dougie's insistence that Mara is real, Kate remains unconvinced, believing Dougie's claims are hallucinations caused by extreme sleep deprivation, and frustrated, she decides to leave.
She kills in clusters. Believing me. Listen.
Well, if this is true, how come you're still alive?
That way she can't get into my waking world. I only sleep for 20 minutes at a time.
You're severely sleep deprived.
Before she goes, Dougie warns Kate not to sleep and urges her to uncover the true reason they are being targeted. Kate then goes to see Dr. Ellis, hoping he can provide a logical explanation.
Dr. Ellis.
She tells him everything about Mara, while showing him the CCTV footage of Helena's death, which she believes looks unnatural due to a dark shadow appearing above Helena's body, as well as revealing the red mark in her eyes. Ellis explains rationally that the red mark could be caused by blood vessel congestion and that Helena's death may have been the result of seizures, firmly rejecting the existence of Mara and attributing the sightings to hallucinations driven by fear and anxiety, which can cause nightmares and false perceptions, especially in someone like Kate who has been under immense stress.
Nothing supernatural. Convulsions.
What about the Hmong refugees? Over 100 died in.
Ellis then takes Kate to a sleep research room where he and his assistant Carly study patients with sleep disorders, once again emphasizing that Mara is not real and that there is no scientific proof of the demon's existence. Hearing Ellis's explanation gives Kate some relief, and she thanks him, feeling temporarily reassured.
I swear to God, Freddy Krueger was in my room. Mara is not real.
Thank you, Doctor.
Feeling completely exhausted, Kate returns home and falls asleep immediately, no longer worried about the demon Mara and therefore unafraid to sleep. But once again, she experiences sleep paralysis, and this time Mara approaches her. Kate is terrified and unable to move as Mara comes closer and places a hand on her neck, signaling that Kate has entered the third stage. The next morning, Kate calls Tom to ask about Sophie's condition, and Tom explains that Sophie has been getting worse and is now suffering from severe sleep problems ever since Kate spoke to her. Sophie also feels guilty about her mother's arrest because she talked to Kate despite Tom forbidding her to do so, and Tom firmly asks Kate to stop interfering with their family. That same day is Helena's funeral, and Kate attends to pay her final respects. Shortly afterward, Kate receives a message from Dougie explaining that he accidentally fell asleep the previous night when his generator shut down and his alarm failed to go off, causing him to enter the fourth stage, leaving him terrified because if he falls asleep again, he will not survive. Kate immediately rushes to Dougie's house and is horrified to find that Dougie has cut his own eyelids to prevent himself from sleeping. Seeing his critical condition, Kate takes Dougie to Dr. Ellis's clinic, where Ellis and Carly administer sleeping medication after realizing how severely sleep-deprived he is, assuring him they will monitor him closely and wake him if anything happens.
Kate, you're exhausted. Dougie too.
We'll wake you up immediately.
You're in safe hands now.
We hadn't slept for days.
Everything is gonna be fine.
Dougie, already resigned to his fate and exhausted by the constant terror, shares his deepest regret with Kate, revealing that he was once a soldier stationed in Iraq and accidentally killed innocent civilians, a mother and her child, a guilt that has haunted him ever since. Under the effects of the medication, Dougie falls asleep, and Ellis also urges Kate to rest due to her exhaustion.
I'd already lost 2 men. It was the most haunting sound I've ever heard. She was holding her dead baby.
Subject is sleep, 23:45.
Hours pass with no sign of Mara, and as Ellis and Carly grow careless, something horrific begins to happen without them realizing it, as both Dougie and Kate experience sleep paralysis and see Mara slowly approaching Dougie. Unable to move, they watch as Dougie's heart rate spikes and the monitor alarms sound, prompting Ellis to try waking him, but it is too late, and Dougie dies at the hands of Mara.
Carly! Carly! Christ!
After killing Dougie, the demon turns toward Kate and begins choking her, causing one of her eyes to turn red, but Ellis manages to wake her in time. Ellis reports Dougie's death to Mike and shows him the footage, admitting that despite relying on logic and science, he cannot rationally explain what happened. Soon after, Mike receives a call from Tom informing him that Sophie has been rushed to the hospital, and Kate immediately goes to see her, only to realize from Sophie's eyes that she too is being haunted by Mara and has already reached the 4th stage, meaning she will die if she falls asleep. Desperate to save Sophie, Kate tells her to stay awake and rushes back to Dougie's house, determined to uncover the connection between all of them, finally remembering Dougie's words that Mara targets those who have experienced a major tragedy.
Can I please?
Kate begins piecing everything together by creating a chart of shared traumas, including Dougie killing civilians during the war, Saul losing his mother in an accident, Matthew's exposed affair, and Helena's intention to divorce, trying to uncover the truth behind why they are all being hunted by Mara. Now Kate only needs to find out what tragedy had happened to Takahashi in the past, so she immediately contacts Mike to ask for more information. Mike explains that Takahashi was once a school principal who created a low-cost meal program for students, but the program ended in disaster when contaminated fish was served, causing the deaths of 38 students. Overwhelmed by guilt, Takahashi fled to another country to escape prison, and realizing that Takahashi was the first person targeted by Mara, Kate finally sees the pattern clearly. They all share one thing in common: deep guilt caused by a major tragedy, such as Dougie feeling guilty for killing civilians during the war, Saul blaming himself for his mother's death, Matthew feeling guilty over his affair, Helena feeling guilty for wanting a divorce, Kate feeling guilty for breaking her promise to Sophie and for Helena's death, and Sophie feeling guilty for speaking to Kate and believing it led to her mother being taken away. Kate finally understands that Mara only hunts people who carry overwhelming guilt, so she rushes to the hospital to tell Sophie that she is not at fault and that everything was Kate's responsibility for breaking her promise and placing Helena in the mental hospital, hoping this will save Sophie's life. Exhausted and barely able to stay awake, Kate accidentally falls asleep and enters the 4th stage, where she can see Mara clearly. And after a long journey, she reaches the hospital and finds Sophie sleeping deeply. Kate desperately wakes Sophie and repeatedly tells her that none of this is her fault and that the blame lies entirely with Kate. And just in time, Sophie wakes up before Mara can kill her.
Sophie, can you hear me? Stop! Don't you touch her! Blame me! Blame me! That's the guilty one, not her!
Her eyes returning to normal, signaling that she is no longer being haunted. Relieved, Kate believes the nightmare is finally over, asks Sophie to go back to sleep, and rests on the sofa herself, later being awakened by Mike, who tells her Sophie's condition is improving and invites Kate to go home. Before leaving, Kate goes to say goodbye to Sophie, but something horrifying happens as Sophie's eyes turn black, and she tells Kate that although she has forgiven her, Helena has not and still blames Kate for her death, revealing that Kate's guilt remains unresolved. Suddenly, Mara appears before her, and trapped in sleep paralysis, Kate is unable to move as the demon slowly approaches and kills her, bringing the story to an end.